If you're enjoying and appreciating the various versions of the Lord's Prayer while we've been doing this series, I found some of them that I was familiar with nice rehearing, and some that I didn't know beautiful, and it's been very helpful. Besides, the choir tells me they almost know the words now. In those days, when again a great crowd had gathered, Jesus was a remarkable preacher and speaker, and they had nothing to eat. He called his disciples to him, and he said to them, "I have compassion on the crowd because they've been with me now 3 days. Now, I want you to see Mel Rosenberg, if you get a chance, and want to do a Bible study. Mel and Dorothy have decided we ought to do one while I'm here and use my talents, and I've agreed. So catch Mel afterwards out and back and say, yeah, we want to join in and help us set up a time and so on, because this is the kind of stuff we want to do. I want you to understand what it means to go hear somebody preach in the time of Jesus. It's about 110 miles between Bethlehem and Jerusalem. It's like this. How many of you have ever been in Israel? Oh, my Lord, oh, my Lord, my Lord. Anybody up here besides Chris? Lord, 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 Lord. We've got to alter that. Let's do some dreaming about that, too. You go uphill, you go downhill, you go around, you walk, and you walk, and you walk, and you walk, and you walk. And when Jesus was preaching in Galilee, according to the scriptures, they came from Jerusalem and Bethlehem and the cities on the far side, out in the area of Syria, and all the way along the coastal line, and it could take you anywhere from 8 to 10 days to get there for the sermon, depending on how you were traveling. Not a 20-minute drive, not a half-hour drive. And once you got there, you didn't want to listen for 20 minutes and go home. So they would stay. They'd have an old-style camp meeting. And Jesus would speak and talk and minister and deal with the people and their needs. And they had been there 3 days, which meant they'd already been on the road for a week or two. And it was important enough to go hear somebody that they made the effort. You couldn't turn on a television set. You couldn't turn on a radio. And they went to hear what Jesus had to say. The equivalent is what the kids are trying to do to go to California. A week's travel. We're going to go by bus, so it won't be a week. It'll be 60 or 56 hours nonstop. They chose to go by bus because they wanted to have as many go as possible, and it would decrease the cost significantly over airfare, and they said we'd rather put the money into the kids and spend the time than to fly out there and not have as many go. The kids decided that, not the adults. And they'll spend a period of time getting there to have 3 days to hear the preaching of Jesus through their resource leaders. It's exciting. Now, they've been with me 3 days and they've had nothing to eat. I have compassion on the crowd, and if I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way, and some of them have come a long way. And his disciples answered them, "How can one feed these people with bread here in the desert?" And he said, "How many loaves do you have?" And they said, 7. And he commanded the crowd to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves, and having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples to set before the people. And they set them before the crowd, and they had a few small fish, and having blessed them, he commanded that these also be given to the people. And they ate and were satisfied, and they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. And there were about 7,000 people. I don't care whether you interpret that as a miracle where the bread just kept multiplying, or as many scholars argue, it was not a case of the bread itself multiplying, but all those who had brought suddenly realizing the importance of sharing. And out of the bountiful food that was there, those that had gave to the others. Either interpretation doesn't matter to me. What's interesting is, as we are dealing with the Lord's Prayer and the whole theme, give unto us our daily bread, it raises some potential for understanding that theme a little more. In the first place, how many of us really think about the source of all things that come to us? I'm amazed when something's going wrong in my life. I look up into heaven and I scream, "Oh God, why is this happening to me?" But when something good is coming in my life, I don't look up in the heavens as easily and scream, "Oh God, why is this coming to me? Thank you." It's somehow or another that when things go wrong, I throw it at God, but when things are going right, I'm pretty proud. I do the right things. God's the one that messes up. Am I right? We really are very much like the little boy who, the first time he saw a cow, couldn't believe that the milk that came out of the bottle originally came from the cow. We look at things about us, and we understand things about us, and we've gotten so technologically sophisticated that we think we know what's happening, and then we eliminate the real cause step, and that is God in life. So when we say, "Give us this day our daily bread," we are in a sense acknowledging that all does come from God. Notice the us in there. Because like the scripture we read, there is a sharing in the us. It's not "give me my daily bread," which is the sign of the times, and particularly of a generation of young people about 10 years ago. The opportunity for a period of time to do some consulting and speaking in the corporate world. It was a very exciting experience, and at the same time a great learning experience for me. And one of the things I discovered is that the corporate people who had come up through the ranks over a period of time were absolutely shocked when they were doing interviewing on the college campuses, because before, where the traditions were, what are my job responsibilities, and what can I do, and what can I bring my talents to bear, and how can I learn to become a better part of the team? The young people on the college campuses says, "I've got what you want and I can learn it now. What are my retirement benefits? How much vacation do I get? What is the raise pattern?" Very little concern about where and what I can do as a human being in my job, but the benefits. What are you going to give me for what little I'm going to give you, or for whatever I'm going to give you? On the way out this morning, I was listening to a Canadian station. They were talking about the rising cost of sports and how so many sports stars are making so much money, and more the drug scene and all the things that the kids were talking about last week is coming forward, and how somehow or another these people are more and more pampered. And 2 or 3 of the sportscasters on a national basis said it will not be very long before you will not have a sports cast from the locker room unless you write a check out and hand it to the sports people. They have learned that you are going to be able to pay for it. And one individual said that if he could do anything else, and he's thinking of getting out of dealing with sports figures, because he said, "I've never dealt with people who are so egocentric and who care so little about anything else." I don't think that's true of all sports figures, but I think that all of us recognize that this is part of the trend of the times. We don't care, and consequently, throughout the Lord's Prayer, over and over and over again, "Give us." But I think it hits a second point on the "give us" very briefly, and that is the obligation for us to share, which is why I like the interpretation that if we sat down here today and pooled our resources to help those who need help, which is what a church is all about, we would be amazed at what we have. It is a sharing. When you do something, do you do it because it makes you feel good? I hope so. That's valid. Do you do it because you recognize a need? I hope so. That's valid. But do you also do it because you know that you are fulfilling the commandment of God to give us this day, and you are the tool of God who does the giving? I may have told you the story before, but I'll repeat it, of the man who was in the midst of a flood. And he prayed unto God, "Save me from this flood." And while he was praying, a police car pulled up in front of his house, and the waters were beginning to rise, and the policeman shouted, "Wait over to the car and we'll take you out." And the man said, "No, thank you, no, thank you. I'm waiting for God to save me." And the flood waters began to get a little higher, and he was sitting on the eave of a roof, and a boat came by with the sheriff's patrol, and they said, "Get in the boat, we'll take you up to the high hills." He said, "No, thank you, I'm waiting for God to save me." And he was standing on the chimney. And a helicopter from the state police settled down, and they said, "Climb on board and we'll take you to safety." He said, "No, thank you, I'm waiting for God to save me." And he drowned. And he got to heaven, and he was angry at God. And he said, I prayed unto you to save me, and you did nothing. And God said, what do you mean? I sent a police car, a rowboat, and a helicopter. Right? You're the saving grace. You're the instrument of God. You're the one who gives the daily bread. And without you, it's not given. So for me, the Give Us has two very powerful statements. Number one, I acknowledge that God is the source. And number two, that I acknowledge you are the pass-through agency. That's a new term for me. I didn't know what pass-through gifts meant. But when the Institute was founded, we did not have tax standing. And the major grant wanted to be sure that there was no question, so they gave it to a tax-free organization who passed through the grant to us. It was called pass-through. And I've been thinking about that ever since, because isn't there a very real sense in which God gives to you and you're the pass-through agent to others? Now the second thing is daily bread. When I reflect in my life, the greatest upheavals and horrors in my life have resolved around the fact that I was not so much concerned, or those about me were not so much concerned for the immediate now, but were concerned about the future. And we talk about it. You know, what's your retirement plan? Get anybody together talking about, read the newspapers, always retirement, 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 retirement. These are all valid things. But give us this day our daily bread. Remember when the children of Israel were wandering in the desert, and the manna, whatever that manna was, if we do a Bible study and talk about it, there are several possibilities. It's probably been found. It still exists. The interesting thing about the manna was that the children of Israel were to take only what they could use for the day. If they took more, it spoiled overnight. They had to rely totally every day on the well-being and existence of God in their life. Now, do we live with that kind of faith? Do we live with the kind of faith that says, okay, Lord, I can make it today, and I'm going to plan. I believe in forward planning. Business has got to do it. Churches have got to do it. You've got some serious thinking to do. What are you going to do with this Phoenix place over here? We're going to have all kinds of people moving into apartments. How many of them are going to end up right here? None, unless we do something about it and begin to plan how we're going to reach those people to let them know what's happening here. Right? You've got to plan. You've got to reach out. Don't take this as a negative, but how many of us have the courage to say, God, I've made it every day in the past through you. God, I'm making it today. And God, I'm going to rely for my daily bread on you tomorrow and not spend all my time worrying about the things that might happen. When? I've seen marriages pulled apart. I've seen families pulled apart. I've seen homes pulled apart. I've seen churches pulled apart. I've seen businesses pulled apart. I've seen all kinds of upheavals, not based on what is actually going on in life, but a fear for the future. Our daily bread. What an ungodly thing to do, not to plan with confidence, but to plan out of fear. There's a difference. So our daily bread is that which is to be given to us daily, and I so trust in God that I believe each day my needs will be fulfilled. Needs, you say? There's a difference between needs and wants. There are a lot of things I want in my life. Some of them I probably need. There are an awful lot of things I want in my life that once I get them, I put them on the side. Our shelves are filled with items that were at one time highly desirable. And after we've gotten them, they quickly run down. They're called Atari game sets for the kids. We play them 28 hours a day for the first 5 days, and now once a week, maybe look at it while Mother dusts it off, right? called cottages that were going to be used the first year month after month and now occasional weekends, or boats, or toys, or books, or whatever. We've all got them in our lives. And we should learn from those things that sometimes our wants are not exactly what we ought to be struggling with in our lives, but we ought to be dealing with the needs of our lives. And part of what it means to give priorities is by not only putting God first, do you establish a core value system that allows you to speak out from that system to the legitimate things of your life, but you also begin to have trust in God and the things to come. So you plan with the confidence of God. You don't react out of fear, hostility, justification, and all the other things. And I think that's extremely important. I'm confident in the future of this church. I'm confident in the future of this church because I'm confident in your future. I think you will plan out of the confidence in God, not out of fear of what might happen, though it's easy to slip into that. And there's a difference, and I want to keep emphasizing that. And as you plan in your own lives, as you look forward, as you dream the dreams, dream them as the godly thing and have the ability to say, God, if it's right to do, let it happen. If it isn't, I will accept that too. Wow. You mean God might say no to one of my dreams? Might very well. I have a firm belief that give us this day our daily bread means that when God says no to this loaf of bread, he's got another loaf over here. It's going to be different, and it's going to be God's loaf, and therefore it's going to be what you need it to be. Absolutely. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that 23rd Psalm, that verse, means that at the very core existence of my life, whatever is going on around me, God's presence will bring about the harmony and the peace and the ability to continue. It's a great verse. I wasn't going to use it. Thank you. It's a powerful verse. It's a verse that speaks to each of us. I'm sorry that we use the 23rd Psalm so often exclusively for funerals and don't use it for our everyday life. For it's a part of the continuing presence of God that wherever we are, God is there. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our sins, our trespasses, our debts, as we forgive those who sin, trespass, debt against us. Once we've acknowledged God in our life and the presence of God, and that we have not only the gifts of God to give to others as a pass-through agency, and that we have the ability to plan with confidence, accepting that the changes that are to be made in our lives under God can continually be made with confidence, we also then have an obligation to heal the gaps. Next week we'll talk about forgive us as we forgive others. Our closing hymn is number 270. My God, I thank thee.